I got a lot of glare. But anyway, 7 o'clock.
Okay. All right. Okay. I'd like to call this meeting to order. The time is now 7 p.m. Let the record show that we have 5 board members attending this meeting virtually. I move the governing board to adopt the agenda. May I have a second?
Madam President, this is Brian Garcia. I second.
Thank you so much, Vice President Garcia. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay. Any opposed? Motion passes 5-0. Do any board members want to go in executive session to review the minutes for August 5th? Okay, I see no hands. All right, so I would like to welcome everyone. My name is Burdetta Hodge. I'm the president of the Tempe Union High School District Governing Board. The Tempe Union is complying with the governor's orders to maintain social distancing for safety of our community. Our live stream is being recorded, and a link tonight for the audio will be on the governing board's page of the district of the website by the end of day Friday. I always start off my governing board meetings with a quote, and this one is, "Life is not supposed to break you, but supposed to bend you to a breaking point, and that's how you become resilient." And the author of that is not only my one and only oldest son, Jevin Hodge. All right, and we will have the pledge. Well, Mr. McDonald, will you please recite the Pledge of Allegiance for us? After the pledge, we'll have a moment of silence.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. We'll have a moment of silence. Okay, thank you. Now we will start with the report for our superintendent, Dr. Mendeville.
I can't hear you, Kevin. Your mic's off.
Sorry about that. Thank you, President Hodge, Vice President Garcia, members of the board, and our listeners out there today, August 19th. I'm pleased to share with our listeners that the first 2 weeks of virtual instruction have been received well, largely by our families and students. We've had some hiccups, and of course, virtual instruction isn't necessarily ideal, but given the advances that we have made in this first quarter of virtual instruction opportunities, there is a notable difference between the fourth quarter experience and what we are having today. So I'm very pleased with that. The synchronous instruction every period, every day requires a lot of deliberate planning by the teachers, even with the best of technology, and they're doing a great job in meeting student needs. Attendance rates have been averaging anywhere from 85 to 97%, depending on the class, depending on the period, and even the school. So I'm very pleased that our students are tuning in. Kudos to our teachers and our students. Our support teams, those multi-tiered systems of support at all 7 sites, have been reaching out to those students who need a little extra nudge and holding them accountable as well. Based on our student attendance reports, it also appears that our students may begin to fatigue a little more towards the end of their virtual instructional day. And we're going to be looking at that so that we can respond appropriately for our students and for our teachers. So we're monitoring student absences and noticing them to be a little higher during the last 2 periods of the day. Monday, August 17th, per the governor's executive order, we began providing a safe space at school for our neediest of students who may not have a laptop device or internet at home, or for a variety of other real reasons. Each student school site extended invitations based on need to over 30 students at each of their school sites in this initial phase, with transportation and meals arranged. Some of our students are participating, and we hope to grow these numbers in the coming days and weeks. I also want to just clarify some information for our families. We are required to follow the open meeting laws for the state of Arizona, which requires the meeting agenda to be posted to the public 24 hours in advance of the meeting. Items are not added at the last minute, as that would be in violation of this open meeting law. Tempe Union High School District generally posts the agenda for the public the Friday before a board meeting, and no later than generally Monday. So we are very much in compliance well in advance of the 24 hours public notice. And also the president of the board sets the agenda generally in collaboration with the superintendent. Team members have been monitoring virtual instruction and planning in a variety of ways, in a variety of areas. And one key area of planning is to ensure the health mitigation plan we released last Thursday is being clearly understood by all stakeholders. Please visit our website to access the document and other information. The clear understanding of this plan and how this will be executed at the schools will help guide each of our schools in receiving students safely. It will also help in providing that reassurance to our students, teachers, and staff that we take the health mitigation plan protocol seriously to keep everyone safe and well. I will be sharing more information on the safe reentry to school, hopefully as early as next week. However, it will be ill-advised to rush that decision before we are completely ready. Thank you.
Thank you so much for your comments, Dr. Mendeville. Now it's time for public comments. Dr. Mendeville, is there any public comments?
Yes, we do. Dr. Wilson?
Thank you. This is the time for the public to comment. Members of the governing board may not discuss items that are not on the agenda. Action taken as a result of public comment will be limited to directing staff to study the matter or scheduling the matter for further consideration and decision at a later date. Public comment concerning a specific agenda item is heard at the time that item is addressed by the governing board. Submissions must include the person's full name and address, their organization or affiliation, such as parent or community member, and the topic or agenda item about which they are writing. Public comment for this meeting was accepted from 1 p.m. on Monday, August 17th until 3 p.m. today. Anonymous submissions and submissions containing personal attacks upon board members or staff are deleted. All other submissions are provided in their entirety to the board. Tonight, we have 3 public comments, and board members, I believe you have received these in a communication. The first one is from Heather Moore, parent, TUHSD board members. I don't have a letter, but rather specific questions that I believe justify a response. Number 1, what exact requirements will each of you have in order to vote to open schools in person? If benchmarks are required, why are these not taken as recommendations as the governor clearly stated is their intent? Once your requirements are met, what is the exact turnaround time for the first day of school in school education? Since there are a very large number of families in your district requesting in-person learning, why are you denying that option to your district, especially when neighboring districts are offering both options to their families? Why do you not allow parents options for what we believe is best for our children, especially considering that no one on this board has children in our district? Thank you in advance for answering these questions in order for our board to provide families with full transparency of its decisions. Second public comment is from Jamie Allison. Good evening. I'm in touch to share my support for in-person instruction as soon as possible. I am the mother of 2 sons, an incoming 7th grader and incoming 9th grader. The social and educational duress caused by the last 6+ months of straight of at-home learning and summer break has taken a huge toll. My sons are by no means the best or most engaged students, so they're pleading for a return to school and healthy social education and social routine is of special significance. It's been over 2 weeks since my freshman son began classes online, and we were optimistic about how it would go, but I would like to share that it's not working for us at all for us. The teachers are doing their best and the technology has been stable, but the amount of and quality of learning that can on through a computer screen is not adequate. My son is mopey, unengaged, moving from couch to office to bedroom to patio to sit and consume the classes, so angsty and unsettled. Yesterday evening, I took part in a 2-hour simulation of his day, logging in and out of classes for 2 hours during the online orientation meeting. At the end of the 2 hours, I hadn't gotten up once, and my mind and body were numb from the inactivity and lack of authentic and meaningful connection with people. Our Tempe Union High School students and their academic and mental health are suffering in the current setting. We need the option to return to in-person instruction as soon as possible. Thank you for your time and consideration. And the final public comment is from Jennifer Clark. Good morning. I have some questions for the TUHSD board members for tonight's meeting. Number one, board members and administration, have you stated you want to return when it's safe to do so? Please respond with what, quote, when it is safe to do so, end quote, means. Number two, why is the board refusing to vote on reopening schools at this board meeting? And number three, what is the projected date for in-person learning to begin? I would also like to add that after 2.5 weeks of online learning, my son, freshman at Corona, is becoming increasingly frustrated with school. He is finding many subjects to be very difficult to learn under these constraints. He cares about his education, as do I. Online learning is failing him. It is imperative to get these kids back in the classroom. The consequences of delaying further will be catastrophic. I want to note that his teachers have done the very best they can under these circumstances. I applaud them. At the virtual open house on Monday, all expressed frustration with this style of learning, and all stated they are eager to get back into the classroom. If both students and teachers want to be in the classroom, why are we still remote? Please take this into consideration when you are making life-altering decisions for thousands of teens in this district. Thank you. That concludes public comment.
Thank you so much, Dr. Wilson. Next is communication from the governing board. We'll start off with Mrs. Lau.
Thank you, President Hodge. So a couple of things before I go into my thank yous to some people in the district. I would like to request President Hodge and Dr. Mandeville that at the next board meeting, we either have an agenda item or a study session on our health mitigation plan so we can go over this in detail and have discussion around it so our community understands it all, because I think to expect our families and teachers, after they've spent a day on the computer with classes and work, for them to get back to our website and look at this detailed plan, it's a lot to ask. And I just think that it would put us all on the same page as far as what we are requiring. And then my second request is, can we please on our website as soon as possible get something directly related to Tempe Union and the three measurements, the three metrics that we are looking at for reopening. So we aren't all going to the dashboard and interpreting that on our own, because I don't even know if we're looking at by school or by district or by county. So I think we really need to be transparent about this to make sure that all of our families and our teachers understand what we're looking at and when it will be a go for us to open the schools. So that I think is really important. And then my final question and request maybe to be addressed next time or sooner than later is, I have talked to a number of parents where they're checking Schoology and their kids are failing a subject. And we're in the third week of school. Now, what do we say to them? I would like to say, call your principal, because I would like and I'm looking for suggestions on this, maybe principals can compile a list of these kids that are going to need some early intervention on these classes, because we pride ourselves on academic intervention at an early time in the semester. And I don't know how these parents are seeking that help. And I think our teachers are pretty overwhelmed with just their schedule. So those are my three requests, that we get some information out as soon as possible. And then I just have some thank yous. I just wanted to recognize our counselors, because they did a lot of preliminary work to identify kids that were going to go on our Tempe Union traditional online school. That meant contacting many of their kids in their schools, and it was just a lot of time on their part. So I just want to say thank you to them and recognize their work on that. I also want to recognize Diane Yeomans, our CFO, and her entire finance department. We just received the bond ratings from S&P Global and the Moody's investors for the 36 million refunding bonds to be issued next week. And they were excellent. Moody's was AA1 and S&P Global was AA stable. And what this really shows is that our financial area is very stable. It allows us to borrow at a lower rate. And we really have a well-run financial area. So thank you, Diane Yeomans, and your whole team for that. I appreciate that very much. The other people I want to recognize tonight is, and this is under Kim Hilgers, our teaching and learning area. Recently, Compadre and Marcos had requested that we look at acquiring technology and computers for our kids in Guadalupe. So there was really a joint effort between the IT department, our food and nutrition to provide lunch and breakfast, our district operations, our safety, our student services, along with the town of Guadalupe, and our federal programs director, who is Brent Brown, and our Indian program coordinator, who I believe is still Valerie Molina. They work together, and now these kids, they're actually meeting at the Guadalupe Mercado, and they get there at 7:45 every day, and they have lunch and breakfast, and they have computers, and there's someone in that room to help these kids. So that was a lot of coordination, and it's just really an example. I know that sometimes our community is anxious for us to do a lot of things, but there's a lot of things going on in the background, and this is just one of them that happened recently, and I want to say thank you very much. And that's all I have. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Mrs. Lau. Board Member Barraza?
Yes, good evening, everyone. Board members, executive team, superintendent, and Madam President. It's really great to see all of you. I don't have much this week. I would first like to thank Director of Operations and Student Safety, Sean McDonald. He toured a couple of the campuses with me. I love looking at construction projects. I love watching how projects go from start to finish. So it was great that he took me to Tempe High and Desert Vista, and we went to look at the football fields that are being completed at this moment. Very, very elaborate, very impressive projects. I got to meet some of the crew and really thank them and let them know that what they're doing really matters to the community, that we're really proud of, this work, and we're excited to, have these new fields. I think it's a start of, I think of something else, what we need. I think these fields kind of come at the right time. Sean, thank you for the tour. I mean, it was great to hear how complex the entire operation is and how elaborate all those projects are. And just pass on to everyone how much I appreciate the hard work, to all the staff members, everyone down to purchasing and really maintenance crews, because they have to really engage with the construction crews and let them know, what works and what doesn't for those pieces of land and, the operation. So it's very elaborate. It's a big undertaking, and it's very impressive. So I'm looking forward to, I know we all are, just please, Mr. McDonald, pass on my appreciation. The other thing is my son has started his portion of online learning in college. It's new, it's very unfortunate, but we're gonna figure it out. Right now, I'm working with him on creative ways how we can take our education, to what I had as a teacher, Mr. Frederick. He was very much hands-on and did a lot of science projects. I learned the stock market from him by also learning math. So, I really appreciate that. I'm going to try and pass on that knowledge to him. Other than that, I just want to say thank you to the community for all the messages, from both sides of the conversation. I think it's very important that, we get the opinions and the concerns of our community. Really what we're trying to do is really focus on safety first, ultimately, and overall what we can accomplish in a safe manner as we reopen. So I'm looking forward to those presentations. And I hope we can, yes, absolutely have that study session as well. I would definitely, as you know, Dr. Mandeville, I love study sessions. So as many as we can have, definitely. But please pass on my appreciation to all the staff and the executive team and the district for how much work they put in. So that's all I have. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, Board Member Browser. Board Member Ham.
Thank you, Mrs. Hodge. First, it's so good to see everybody looking healthy, and I'm thankful for that. Mrs. Lau, I agree with you about early intervention. When we do start back to school, I don't want to have kids coming into a classroom feeling like they're already lost or they don't know what to do or they're already failing, so why try? So I wholeheartedly agree with you about finding ways to touch these kids and get them back where they need to be in learning. I just wanted to talk about a different version of student. I lay in bed like most of you the other night, and I was thinking about wanting kids back in school and how excited it was. And I started remembering when I was teaching those students who hated school, who didn't like school. And I would say to them, why? And they would always say, no one likes me. I'm different. I don't have the same skin color. I'm not the same religion. I'm not the same gender. They don't want to play with me. They don't want to sit with me at lunch. This is an opportunity, students and parents, for us to realize that we can throw the word different out of our vocabulary. And what we can grasp when we get back in school is looking for that other person who has similar interests as we do, similar things that they might want to learn, and that we can meet them somewhere instead of pushing them away. Go up to that other student who's sitting alone in the lunchroom. Go up to the one that always goes to the library because they have no one to talk with. How about the student who can't afford the same clothes you do? Treat them just as you would your very best friend. This is an opportunity, parents, for us to teach our children what it means to be similar to everyone and to hold everyone close in our hearts. And to me, that's the value possibly that we can get out of this pandemic. Thank you.
Thank you, Mrs. Lau. Vice President Garcia.
Thank you, Madam President. I want to start with thanking all of our families, teachers, classified staff, and admin for truly working together and figuring out how best to provide a quality education to all of our students. As we mentioned before, we have over 2,000 students and with all varying needs. And for me, it's very personal, especially coming from an ELL background. Growing up, English wasn't my first language, but now it's become part of obviously my core and who I am. Same with my family members and my brother, who now is grateful to continue in college as well. And really working together, all of us, keeps our education in our schools together. And I especially want to highlight our classified staff. They are the unsung heroes, whether it's IT, admin assistants, librarians, cafeteria workers, janitors, counselors. You all help provide the needs that we all rely on to succeed and thrive. And I can't thank you all enough for the work that you continue to do. As we all know, we're looking forward to returning to school. Every 100%, right? Like that's our ultimate goal. And I hope that we continue doing that. I also wanted to echo Board Member Lau's comments as well. Those are pragmatic perspectives, and I think that's something that we can always work towards. I also wanted to thank Dr. Menderville and Mark Kulik for really responding to our PSAT requests. They were able to essentially triage and get proper information out to our families that raised concerns to what that looks like moving forward. And I'm confident that we'll be able to provide alternatives, if not provide information for alternative entries for national merit, as well as other information that will be helpful to our students. And really quick to address some of the emails that we've been getting. Please keep sending them. We do read them. We're triaging them to the appropriate staff members that can address those questions. I just wanted to thank the administration and teachers and Classified for all the planning and work that goes on behind the scenes. I know you all are continuing to plan for when we do return for hybrid and full 100%, and any other contingency planning that goes behind that. While that may not always be up front, and it's not always the easiest work, it's usually the very complex and nuanced areas. Thank you for doing all of that work and truly working for all of our students and our families. And then I have two more comments. I wanted to thank the Tempe Community Council for their support and partnership for Compadre, for the TAP and the app programs. Truly what we all do couldn't be done without partnerships such as TCC and other nonprofit organizations. And really quick, as every meeting, I'd like to highlight the gifts and donations we all get. So 200 from the City of Tempe to Tempe High, donation from Natalie Coopwood to Mountain Point, Trisha Davison to Desert Vista, Kroger to Mountain Marcos Deniza, and Anonymous, and a donation from Raymond Mata to Marcos Deniza. So thank you all to our community members and families that continue supporting during such an unprecedented time. Finally, I just wanted to say, if you need help, we've had instances where students with social emotional needs have reached out, and our district has been able to triage and provide different forms of support. Please know that we take all of them very seriously and try and do respond as best as the district can with the resources that we do have. So thank you so much to our staff that continues to do that on a regular basis. I know we're all working to get back to normal as soon as we can. That's all I have. Thank you so much, Madam President.
Thank you so much, Vice President Garcia. I just want to say that I follow everything that my board has said, my board members have said tonight. I do believe, Mrs. Lau, we will put in a study session. I heard that, and I've actually, Dr. Mendenville and I have talked about that. So we are definitely all on the same page with that. And Board Member Helm, you're right on when it comes down to this is a time to reflect on how different the students are, and when they get back into schools, and we will get back into schools, they will appreciate friends and make new friends out of this scenario of being by themselves for so long. I want to start off with patience is not an ability to wait, but patience is the ability to keep a good attitude while we're waiting. And that's anonymous. Reason why I said that is because I know it's hard on every one of us having not having in-person school. We all want the same agenda. We all want to get there, but we want to get there safely. I have had emails addressing the fact that we are not parents in the district. You're right. We don't have one child in that district. We all have 12,832 children in the district that we care about and we will take care of. So you're right when you say we don't have one child. We have many. And all 5 of us are going to always support and take care of our kids the best we can. I also want to address the fact about we're not following the state laws, but I just want to get you under and we'll speak to this. Dr. McDonald will talk to it more in a few minutes, but just to let you know that we are following the dashboard, and we're not just following the state level. We have to follow Maricopa. We have to go by district. We have to go by zip codes. If you look at our zip codes, it's only 2 that's red. It's yellow in our district right now. We have all red. So we have a lot, and he will go into more depths of that. So I just want you to understand that we are following the dashboard. We are taking it seriously as a board, as a district. We want our kids back in school. We want to hit those marks. So And as parents, I understand the frustration. You can always email us. You can always talk to us, but do not don't get the idea that we don't hear you or we don't care. That is not true one way or the other. Um, Want to thank all of the whole district. I mean, this has been for as hard as it is on our students and our parents, is just as hard on our teachers in our district. It's hard on everyone. This is a learning experience. No one has ever had to go through this in their lifetime. We're all going through it together. I talked to Kyrene and Mason, Tempe and Gilbert and Chandler, and they're all having the same problems, the same issues we all are having. We're all in this together. When we start to turn each other, that's when things go negative. We need to realize that we're all in this together. We're going to get through this together. I understand that our path may not be fast enough for some people, or people want it today, but we'll get there. It may not be today, it may not be tomorrow, but we'll be there soon. And on that, I will stop talking and go back to the meeting. Thank you guys so much for that. So our first, I'm sorry, Dr. Mendeville, is there any communications from the executive team?
Thank you, President Hodge, Vice President Garcia, members of the board. I'd like to introduce Mr. McDonald. He will provide some, just an update on our COVID-19 cases through the district. Mr. McDonald.
Let's try that again. Thank you, Dr. Mendeville, Madam President, governing board members, and executive team. Since our last report on August 5th, we have had 21 positive COVID cases in the district that we know of. In the past 2 weeks, contact tracing has continued to occur on a daily basis. We have quarantined 62 employees in the last 2 weeks, with 3 of them having positive COVID results. 44 of those that were quarantined were classified members, and 18 were certified members. Thankfully, we have had no student exposure or quarantined during the past 2-week period. We continue to watch the metrics on a daily basis, and if you're interested, last Friday, Maricopa County sent out their new protocols and their new dashboard that allows you to see not only by the state and the county, but as President Hodge said, but also by the metrics of zip code and by the school districts. According to Maricopa County's dashboard at this moment, Tempe Union's overall risk is currently substantial, and the recommended learning scenario remains virtually with on-site support. The update for the Arizona Department of Health Services gets updated on Thursdays, and I will send that update in a board briefing. I thank you for your time.
Thank you so much, Mr. McDonald. Mrs. Lau?
So, Mr. McDonald, can you please define on our website when you say substantial and what exactly you're looking at? Because I still, as a board member, don't even know if we're looking at a district or by school or by county. And I think it's important for our community so they can follow this, because a lot of our families are following on the dashboard, but we may be looking at it differently. So I think it's important that they understand how Tempe Union, what they're looking at on a weekly basis, and report it somewhere on our website so we're on the same page.
Dr. Mendeville?
Thank you. Thank you, Madam President. I want to respond to that because Mrs. Lau, you are absolutely right. However, we've been planning on this, and this is part of the data that we're taking it all in, but we have to be very certain with what data we're looking at. And to your point, there are 2 now websites that have data that present not just slightly, but little bit different scenarios. And so we need to look at that and look to see comprehensively what does that mean for Tempe Union High School District. I also think that we can't just take it for granted that within zip codes either, because we have a large open enrolled group of students. And so when we look at some of the zip codes that may be appearing yellow, and we have 50% of those students coming from higher risk areas within the community. So I just, because this isn't formally agendized, I just want to make sure that we are going to be presenting much of this information very soon here, and so that we have that information. I don't want to say something that has not been confirmed. We have been meeting with teams. We're not taking this lightly. I know that, and I know that our community would like to have some more definitive information on that, and that's what we're preparing right now to present.
Thank you so much, Mrs. Helm.
Thank you. I had a question, Sean, concerning our employees, these 62 people that you say both classified and certified that have tested positive, I guess, or at least been tested. How were they identified?
Thank you for asking the question, Mrs. Helm. 62 were quarantined to home because they were exposed to a possible or a positive COVID person. So we had to make sure that we quarantine them to make sure we could stop the spread and make sure that the curve doesn't grow from that. So 3 of those that were quarantined were positive COVID. The remainder showed tests that were negative and were able to report back to work.
And are those test results coming back quickly to you?
We're finding that if they come back from a certain group, which is the Embry Women's Health Group, they're getting the results within about 2 to 4 days. We're finding that other ones might take a little bit longer, 7 to 10 days at this point.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Hill.
Board Member Lau? You okay?
Yeah, I'm okay.
Okay,
Thanks.
thank you so much. Okay, Dr. Minimal, is there any more comments from the executive team?
I don't believe so.
All right, well, thank you so much. Thank you, Mr. McDonald. Our first order of business is the consent agenda. May I move to approve consent agenda items G1? Do you want me to stop, Mrs. Lau? I mean, Mrs. Ham, I'm sorry. Mrs. Ham? You're on mute.
Sorry, I wanted to pull 8 for a couple of questions, please.
Okay, well, can we put them all together and then you can ask the questions when I asked all in favor? Can we keep it together? And then you can ask the questions. I ask any discussion, you can bring it out then, or do we need to separate it?
I guess you don't need to separate it at this point. I will probably vote for it, but I just do have questions how far
I will make sure. I'll make sure that I bring that to you. Okay.
Thank you.
No problem. I move to approve consent agenda items G1 through G8. May I have a second?
Madam President, this is Brian Garcia. I second.
Thank you so much, Vice President Garcia. Any discussion, Mrs. Ham?
Thank you very much. G8 is Arizona School Risk Retention Trust, and this is about our liability under COVID-19. And one of my question is, does this liability cover our staff, teachers, custodians, bus drivers? I don't know who to ask that to.
I'm looking to respond.
Oh,
I'm off. Okay.
Thank you.
Board Member Hell, Madam President, Vice President Garcia, members of the board. Fortunately, through the disabilities, workman's compensation, rather, I'm sorry, I'm thinking of another category. Under workman's compensation, our employees are covered in the event there are COVID-19 cases or a case brought against us. And that's through the recommendation and the advice through our trust attorneys.
So in other words, if they are sued by a student or a parent who has gotten COVID while in their classroom, they have coverage under workman's compensation?
Well, whenever a community member or parent sues a teacher, it's covered by the district insurance, which is the trust. So,
Okay,
and that would be for all employees.
Okay.
including you guys.
Well, I didn't see, since this is kind of a new addition to that, I know that normally if somebody falls in a classroom and the teacher sued because there was a cord there, or the principal sued or whatever, they're covered. But being this was COVID-19, I, after reading it, wasn't sure the liability and how far it was going to reach. But if you feel that there is coverage from our trust under this new component, endorsement number 10, from the Risk Retention Trust to staff, that is acceptable to me. Thank you.
Thank you. And just as a reminder, this is for our families. So if community members decide to, for whatever reason, everyone can sue for just about anything these days. But if should litigation move forward in a lawsuit, this rider insurance with the Arizona School Risk Retention Trust covers the district. We're also requesting that prior to students being on campus, for whether it's in-person support or when we go in a hybrid model for instruction at the sites, that students need to, their families need to complete the parent acknowledgement form. And that's all part of the planning that needs to take place when you roll out a plan for reentry. There's a lot of 1,000 details that go into that, and that is one of them. And so we want to make sure that that our families are aware of the acknowledgement form. Doesn't mean they have to agree to it, but they need to know these are the mitigation. That's why I keep emphasizing the health mitigation plan, and the guidelines that are within that plan are very, very critical to the success of good reentry for our students and families. So great
Thank
question.
you. Thank you. I just know that our parents, our teachers and our staff want to know that they are safe in this area as well as in their health area. Thank you.
Great point, and yes, they are.
Thank you. Is that your last question? I thought you had two, or is that the only
No,
one?
that really covered it. Thank you.
Okay, you're very welcome. So we're gonna go back to the vote. All in favor? Oh,
Wait,
okay,
Andres.
sorry. Okay,
Madam
board
President,
member.
I just have a quick, just regarding that, everything in terms of the legalities and this, well, I guess pertaining to, just to make sure for the record, that we're still talking about consent agenda item G, Arizona School Risk Retention Trust, because since it's all together, I wanted to make sure that was clear for the record. Regarding that, is there any information that should go out or needs to go out updated regarding COVID, legal processes, legalities, and so forth to our staff and teachers while we consider them going into the classroom? I just want to make sure that they have their heads wrapped around it. Is that something that we're putting together, or we have put together, or just kind of a background on that?
It's in the same area, so I feel comfortable in responding to that. Board Member Barraza, that the information for them is, again, much of it's going to be housed in the health mitigation plan. In those key areas of health mitigation, in the protocol that we've established within the classrooms, the cleaning, the mask wearing, how we walk our students, we create arrow directional pathways in hallways, we are social distanced. All those things are housed within that document, and that's the piece that we're right now working on, ensuring that there's a high level of understanding and awareness of what's in that document, and not just for our teachers, because they're starting to see it now, and I think they will have a gradual time to mull it over and understand what that means. And that's the key piece, because that was part of the governor's order, that we have a clear mitigation plan, so that when we do receive students on campus, whether that's in an support format like we're doing right now for our neediest of students, or if when we finally bring students together in a hybrid model, as an example, those key elements need to be in place. So, and that's the key there for that.
I appreciate that. Thank you, Dr. Mendeville. I think that's really the way to go, is putting those policies into the protocols. That was my concern, was making sure that everyone is on the same page when we go in the classrooms, and that we're looking at it, from that standpoint. That's all I have. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Board Member Barraza. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay, any opposed? Motion passes the motion passes for the consent agenda 5-0. Next, we have our new business. Our first item is to select someone to represent the Tempe Union at the ASBA Delegate Assembly on October 17th. Mrs. Lau, you have been our delegate for the last, I don't know, 8 years. Can you at least let us know what the delegate does?
It's very complicated. I'm kidding. Basically, it's right after the law conference. So it's Saturday morning and you get there about 8 o'clock and you basically go item by item on the political agenda that the ASBA puts out. And you vote on nay or yay. And it can be very interesting because different delegates have different opinions and some districts decide not to support something. So, you're all listening and then in the end you adopt a political agenda. And it used to be you would be there until about 2 or 3 in the afternoon. Now they've sped that up and they don't even provide lunch anymore. So usually you're out. Last year it was a little longer, but usually out by noon. So it's very interesting. I just have done it a number of years and I think we should share the opportunity.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. And thank you so much for doing it for so many years.
My pleasure.
Okay, can we have a volunteer to serve as Tempe? Well, you know what? I won't even say, can we have a volunteer? If no one else wants to do it, I would love to do it because I already have to be at ASBA due to the fact that I am an officer at the African American Caucus. So if anybody else wants to do it, let me know. But if not, I will volunteer myself to do it.
You're
Does
it.
Absolutely, Madam President. I think you'd be great, great advocate for our students over there. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Well, we'll have to vote on it. All those in favor to have Burdetta Hodge represent us at the delegate assembly? All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, the motion passes 5-0.
So President Hodge,
Yes.
I think we normally have an alternate appointed too, just
We
in
do.
case.
We do, and it's not on it, but we can definitely I can ask for an alternate. Who would like to be the alternate to me? If I can't be there.
Madam President, I would like to step up if you can.
Thank you so much.
I think we collaborate really well.
We do.
I think we collaborate really well, and I'd love to have the opportunity to learn from both you and Governing Board Member Lau. So this is an opportunity for me to start to transition to understand that aspect as a second year on my board.
All right. Thank you. So I guess we have to vote on did we ever vote on the alternate? I don't think so. No, I don't think so. All right, we're fine.
I see your heads nodding. Yes, he's it too.
Yes, he's it. We got it. It's consistent. Okay. So the next item is our 2021 ASBA policy agenda. On September 2nd, we'll tell the volunteer person, Burdetta, how we will want to vote. Please make sure you read this so you'll be ready to discuss it at the next meeting. Okay, guys? So you guys get ready to tell me how you want to vote. All right. Next on our agenda is we come to the fall sports update. Dr. Mendenville.
Thank you, President Hodge, Vice President Garcia, members of the board. We are kind of excited about this because we have a new member to our administrative team, and that individual is Mr. Dave Huffine. And I'd rather have Mr. McDonald introduce him formally as in his role as assistant sup for district operations and student safety and all the other things that he does. So Mr. McDonald, would you mind introducing our very own Dave Huffine?
It will be my great pleasure to do so. So, Madam President, Governing Board members, executive team, it's with great pleasure that I've been able to work with Mr. Huffine now for about 5 weeks. And he is passionate about our kids and ready to make the best for our activities and athletics. And tonight, we are going to present to you the phased return to the extracurricular activities and athletic plan. At this time, we'll go ahead and I'll turn it over to Mr. Huffine.
Thank you, Mr. McDonald. Madam President Hodge, Vice President Garcia, members of the Governing Board, and Dr. Mendeville, and the executive team. It's a pleasure to be with you here tonight, and an honor to speak with you. It's exciting, in a very different type of atmosphere, and it's one that is a little different than we're all used to. But I'd like to share with you about what's been happening on our campuses in regards to activities and athletics, and what we hope to see moving forward. I would first like to say that we have been following the recommendations and guidelines of the Center of Disease Control, the AIA, the Sports Medicine Advisory Committee of the AIA, the district's health mitigation plan, and been in close communication with our community medical experts, among those led by Dr. Amy Overland, the primary sports medical physician at Banner, Mr. Josh Hayes, who's the sports program director for Banner Therapy, and Mr. Stephen Baca, who's the head athletic trainer at Desert Vista High School. They have been extremely helpful in what we have been doing up to this point, and I want to kind of go over a little bit of the background about what our kids have been doing here at Tempe Union over the last couple weeks and months. We have established a phased approach in terms of bringing our return kids back to play and bringing them back onto campus. This was a approach that, like I said earlier, we had been in close consultation with those experts and with those groups, and we started June 8th in welcoming our student athletes back onto campus. From that phased approach, we had mandatory temperature screenings and health attestation questionnaires that they had to go through, each and every student that came onto campus. From those, we had kids that came onto campus in no more than groups of 9, with a coach making it a cohort of 10. And we were very adamant about what we expected from them, specifically social distancing, hygiene, and what we were going to expect from them from the time that they entered campus till the time that they were on their way home. Groups did not change their attendance within those cohorts for contact tracing purposes. Student athletes were required to bring their own water, for example. We recommended 2 gallons for them to come onto campus. We required masks, and we required that from our coaches and from our students and any staff. Masks are going to be required to be used at all activities, including transitioning between facilities and also while entering and exiting campus. During this period, it was almost a phase as if we were approaching it from a student athlete's perspective coming back from an injury. We didn't know exactly where these kids had been in terms of their conditioning level. Obviously, June is a very hot month, and we really worked them in slowly. We did not do anything within the weight room. There was no contact drills, and the focus was strictly on strength and conditioning and agility work. It was mainly done outside, and it was a very successful 2.5 months, well, 2 months. And we now move into an August phase, which we refer to as our phase 2 approach. Working in close conjunction with Dr. Oberlin, she was looking at data, looking at the information that was provided, not only by the health and the county, but also just with what we were seeing on a daily basis with the kids coming in. And that allowed us to move into what we refer to as our phase 2, which began August 1st and what we are currently in. Our phase 2 approach is allowing more students onto campus at one time with a maximum of 50 student athletes at any given practice. From that 50 group, we can divide it up into cohorts, but those cohorts are no more than 4 athletes. If it was to be minimized further, we would appreciate that. But we also knew that going in and doing some specific drills, we wanted no more than 4 athletes per small group. And what that entailed was, for example, throwing a ball back and forth. We were volleying back and forth with our volleyball group. We allowed these to be the 4 athletes that stayed together. We were doing our sanitation frequently with the ball. We didn't add any additional equipment. We were requiring masks to be worn at all times while maintaining social distancing. Locker rooms still remain closed. Students still had to bring on their own water. And currently at this point, we are looking from our phase 2 from August 1st to today, an average of right around 750 student athletes for all of our 6 campuses. That is an average. I believe it's going up a little bit with the addition of some golfers that are now coming out. But to date, from August 1st to right now, we have had 1 student athlete that we have had to stop who was not feeling well. And this is due specifically to our health attestation and our protocols that we have with our temperature checks. We were able to stop 1 student athlete who wasn't feeling well. And from that, we sent them home, recommended to get a test taken, and that test is currently pending. And so when you look at all the information that we have right now in terms of our phase 2 from the beginning of August, we feel very, very good as to where we are within a district. From that, we are starting to look at where we're going. And the AIA has set forth their fall athletics timeline. Currently, we have 1 sport that has their first official practice, which was Monday, which was golf. In fact, golf's first competitions are going to be this coming Monday. So it's going to be a quick turnaround for our golfers. One of the things that Arizona was pretty fortunate, I feel, was that they really didn't shut down any golf courses during the whole pandemic. Golf is by nature a social distance type of sport. The AIA has provided modifications for every single sport for this fall, golf being obviously one of them. And they are taking all measures possible to mitigate any type of situation where the athletes would come in contact. So right now we are currently with 1 sport that has started their first practice. We will start on Monday, August 24th with cross country and swim and dive. The first competitions for cross country is going to be September 9th. And the first competition for swim and dive is going to be September 14th. Badminton and girls volleyball, along with freshman tennis, will start the following week on August 31st, with the first competition for badminton starting September 14th. And for freshman tennis and girls volleyball will be on the 21st of September. Football will be the last to begin their first official practice, which will be Labor Day, September 7th. And those first competitions will start September 30th with our freshman and sophomore games that are going to start on that Wednesday, with JV on Thursday. And then our varsity games will first establish their first home games and away games will be October 2nd. And that is the AIA fall athletics timeline that was set forth and has been modified a little bit from the beginning when they started to bring all the sports back August 17th. That was pushed back the last couple weeks. We are looking right now for the Sports Medicine Advisory Committee for the AIA to meet next week. There possibly could be new recommendations, and we are going to be looking in terms of what they are going to recommend for the schools and throughout the state at that point in time. We are looking to possibly move to phase 3 on August 24th. Phase 3 is a little bit broader in terms of activities that we are going to allow. Obviously, masks are going to be required at all times, but we're going to start to introduce different types of game type situations, one-on-one competitions, 7-on-7, small scrimmages for the volleyball team. These are not practice games or scrimmages like you would see where we're padded up and we are contacting one another. We're going to minimize our physical contact as much as possible. We're going to make it mandatory use of hand sanitizers like we always have, but we're really going to stress it before and after any activity or any type of drill. For example, we're going to use hand sanitizers before a drill, run the drill, hand sanitizer after the drill, and then rotate to the next activity. These 50 participants can still be out on the field or court, but that's going to be based on the type of social distance space that we have available. For example, in a court situation, if we cannot handle 50 participants, for example, volleyball, we may have to shorten that number down to allow for social distancing. Athletes may utilize equipment within drills, but that drill must at the end have equipment sanitized after that activity. For example, if they were to hit a sled or if they were to hit a pad, that sled or pad would need to be sanitized and wiped down immediately after. This has been not only what we are doing with our athletics, our activities are also really doing an amazing job of being very creative in terms of what they can do, in terms of engaging and making those meaningful connections with our students. Palm and Cheer is an activity that for some are coming onto campus and they are also practicing, once again, following our health mitigation plan, once again, following our phased-in approach. Some are doing it virtually, but they are having tryouts and they're excited to be back on campus, as you can well imagine, being back with their friends. But we also have many activities that are doing virtual meetings. Virtual seems to be, the norm these days, but I can tell you this, these types of meetings are ones that the kids really, really enjoy, from student council and NHS and yearbook to robotics they're planning, what they're going to be doing this upcoming year, to our speech and debate groups that are looking to plan for tournaments, to our bands and our performing arts that do just an amazing job with our kids. And you would think that it is basically impossible for these to continue to exist in a virtual setting. But we have some very creative people and we have some amazing educators within this district. And they are doing an excellent job of communicating with their parents, with their students, and making a meaningful experience. And hopefully we can get back onto campus as soon as possible. But at the meantime, we're trying to minimize the amount of people that are on campus. We want to stress that if they can, they need to do it as a virtual meeting. This includes our sports teams. Instead of having team meetings together, virtual meetings are really the way that we want to go. But at this point in time, they're all following the protocols. And as you can see from the specific data that we have accumulated, that they're doing an amazing job. And I'm very proud and I'm very excited that moving forward that we can continue to do this. Obviously, we're in an uncertain time. I don't know if I have all the answers. I certainly don't know exactly what's going to be happening a month from now. But for right now, with what we have been doing in terms of mitigating, in terms of what our athletes and what our student body is doing, along with our coaches and sponsors, I can say that our safety is being stressed, and it's the most important thing that we have right now moving forward. And now, if you have any questions, I would certainly welcome them.
All right. Well, thank you. So we'll start asking questions. Can I just ask one question before I go? Because I'll forget my question always. I always seem to forget it. My question is for you, Mr. Huffine. I see that you said bands. How are they going to do like plays? Because they do plays and bands. Does that mean choir and orchestra? All of that is included in band. But how are we going to do like our plays that we have phenomenal plays in our district. So I'm just wondering, right, is there some kind of guidelines for around that too?
Well, right now, they're working in conjunction with each other virtually. We are not having kids coming on campus and doing and working in terms of our performing arts groups. We would hope that would happen at some point in time, that we could continue with our outstanding plays and dramas and orchestras and band. But right now, they're just working in terms of the performing arts. For example, our band has distributed all of our instruments to our kids. I think that probably leads to pretty lively evenings at their house when they're practicing with their families. But it's a difficult time, and to say that how are we going to be able to have a play? Right now, it's impossible because we can't get on campus to do so. But that doesn't mean that the planning isn't going forward. That doesn't mean we're not going to be creative. That doesn't mean they're going to create YouTube videos or things that may not necessarily be, the norm, but it could be pretty outstanding based on the creativity that we have within this district.
Okay, I have one more question, and it's probably for Dr. Mendeville. With we having Marcos being a performing arts school, how are we handling that, knowing that that's the school within the school is the performing arts, and they can't do that at this time?
Madam President, I would just reiterate Mr. Huffine's comments, because they're no exception. I mean, to his point, I know the talent in our teachers, and they're going to find every possible way to give them their parts virtually, to practice, to share on YouTube. I mean, because I've talked to a couple of them, and that's what they're planning. And if in the event that we're in a time frame where a play can actually be had, then they'll be ready. I can tell you that. So, but they're going to be creative in their ways in which they're going to reach kids right now, but they have to do it safely. And I trust that they will be, because I'm seeing some of the results of that.
Okay, thank you so much. Board Member Ham, and then I got Vice President Garcia.
David, I'd like to welcome you. It's very kind of you to come to our district during this difficult time and offer your knowledge and your leadership to us, and we're very fortunate you're joining us, so welcome. I also wanted to tell you that I do agree with you that we have an amazing staff in this district, and our teachers haven't complained. They've taken on a myriad of different ways of having to teach, and the same with coaching and all of this. So I think they're an outstanding group, and I'm glad you've joined us. I have two questions of you. One is, I did go on the AIA website, and they keep saying on their website, recommended new guidelines for return. I've got it up right here. And they go on to say that updates are still coming. And so since they're giving out dates and you shared those dates with us, could they be revised or changed? And how would we notify those students participating?
Well, thank you for the question. What I will say to that is that, yes, they are updating. Anytime they get any new information, they're updating their recommendations and guidelines. But I'm in close contact with coaches almost on a daily basis, with the athletic directors, with the APs for activities on a daily basis. I meet weekly with our medical team and go over the data, because the one thing that we don't want to do is we don't want to push something in a way where if a situation were to arise and there might be a student or two that may have symptoms, we need to be able to shut a group down and be able to contact trace immediately. We have gone over the protocols with the coaches, with the sponsors, with the administrators. They are well aware of the plan. And the AIA has set forth their timeline for when competition can begin. We still don't necessarily have all of the schedules. Golf has their schedule, but the conferences, because of the nature of the different communities that may or may not be participating within the next couple weeks, it's been very difficult to create the same type of schedule. They've had to modify, they've had to recreate, they've had to go over it again. So we still don't have the official schedule for the other sports other than golf. It should be coming any time now. As soon as I get that official schedule, I'm certainly going to get it to the schools, the sites, and get it to you, because I know that that is one thing that is very much on the minds of our entire community.
And my other question to you is a health question, and it is not about COVID-19. It's about the extreme heat that we have been suffering here for the last, I don't know how many months it seems like. And I just can't see how cross country can start football in 113 and be safe. how are we guaranteeing the safety of our students with this extreme heat that we're dealing with now?
Well, one of the things that I think is fortunate is the fact that the timeline has been pushed back a little bit, so that the start of official practice. See, we haven't even started official practice with the exception of golf yet. And so the start of official practice isn't going to be, for example, cross country until on Monday, and then football isn't until September 7th. And that, I think that one of the benefits is that they're not practicing with helmets. They're not practicing in shoulder pads. They won't be doing that until the middle of September for football. For cross country, almost all the cross country teams are running early in the morning. Very few of them are running, in the midday. That's just something that cross country teams don't do, especially during this time. Our athletic trainers are right there as well. And, they make sure that there's a heat protocol that we also follow. That's a requirement. And that when the heat index gets to a certain point, they don't let teams practice. And so we are still following those guidelines that we've always followed from the time that was previous before COVID.
Thank you, Mr. Huffine. And again, welcome to our district.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
Okay. Vice President Garcia, did you have a question?
Yes, thank you, Madam President. Just like Board Member Helm, I would like to welcome you to the district. We're super excited to have you. We heard great things. So we're glad you're with us. I wanted to ask regarding kind of elaborating on band and other fine arts. What do we have with respect to competitions? Because I know those come up in the fall and also in the spring. Is there, granted, with safety measures in place, kind of a phased approach to that will apply for fine arts? And also, I commend all of our fine arts programs for doing virtually. Eric Whitaker, who's well known for the amazing pieces he composes, and he put together a virtual choir that brought singers from around the world to do a virtual piece. So I can imagine how our fine arts are stepping up to do something similar like that. But yeah, I was just curious in respect to competitions, because I know that's something that students look forward to.
Yeah, so ABOTA has canceled all fall competitions for marching band and for orchestra. So, we're in a unique situation that those marching bands that are always competing for those state championships and for the right to claim themselves as the best in the state aren't going to be doing that this fall. And so, that's pretty devastating. That being said, our performing arts teachers are doing the best they can to provide those meaningful experiences with, top-notch instruction, so that we're not falling behind whatsoever, that they're still going to create performances. They're still going to demand excellence from each and every one of their students. It's just not going to be in that competitive setting that it usually is in this fall period.
No, thank you for that. Completely understandable. It still breaks my heart, especially me coming from a fine arts background as well, that those experiences are ones that we hold dear for the rest of our lives. With respect to sports, obviously we're in a phased approach, and once games and competitions and championships starts going, what does our public attendance look like? And should they be obviously similar to what professional sports are doing, where there's no audience members or public members? Would we be recording those and providing those for viewing at home, or what does that look like?
So that's a very good question, Vice President Garcia. And what I will say to this is we're following the recommendations set forth by the governor and through his executive orders in terms of mass gatherings. And right now, we're not any more than 50. Now, there hasn't been very clear instruction in terms of what the 50 looks like, because if you have teams that are playing, if you have competition going on, if you have a cross-country meet happening, does that mean that you have 50 within the cross-country teams? Does that mean you have 50 within the teams that are competing, let's say in volleyball or football? That needs to be cleared up. We're certainly going to be looking forward to that. Right now, it may be difficult for us to have fans within the stands meeting that guideline, because we're going to have people running the scoreboard. We're going to have people on the sidelines doing the chains. We're going to have people that are going to be, trainers, referees, game officials. I would love for us to have fans. I'm just waiting to see if the governor is going to recommend the ability for us to do so. We do have, luckily for us here at the Tempe district, the Pixelot NFHS cameras, so we can live stream anything that happens within our fields and within our gymnasiums. That can be something that can be through the NFHS network. Any family can go on there and they can watch the teams practice or play. We are looking for a couple enhancements. There are some schools that are looking to possibly include more cameras and possibly, and this is what we're talking about with, the creativity, possibly media productions. And we might see some of the students become game announcers, which would be a pretty unique feature. And we're looking into doing some of that within some of our sites.
No, thank you. I appreciate that. My brother was a baseball player with Corona, and so it's I can only imagine families wanting to watch their player, especially in heated competitive games. So yeah, thank you so much. I appreciate it.
Okay.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Vice President Garcia. I have one more question before if I forget for him, and I'll let you go. Well, it's actually for Diane Milnes. We have paid for some sporting events and activities early in the year. Are we going to get refunded back that money? Because I know we had some that I know we paid for, like our football team to go out of state. Was it Desert Vista or Mountain Point? I don't remember which one, but I know that we had. Are we getting refunded?
Thank you, Madam President. Yes, we have been working on those refunds. In some cases, we have not received all of the money back due to the contract requirements of those trips. And so we've continued to work with some of the other districts that have negotiated those contracts to see what we can do. In some cases, we've gotten credits. In other cases, we have gotten the money back, and we have refunded the parents for the amount of money that they put in for deposit. But it basically has been different based on the various trips that were out there that were scheduled to occur that we had paid for.
Thank you so much for that. Board member, I'll go with Dr. Mendeville, and then I'll go back to you, Board Member Hill.
I just would like, first of all, thank you, Mr. Huffine. Excellent presentation, and the information and thoughtfulness behind what you're doing right now for us is very appreciated. With Phoenix Union Phoenix Union High School District canceling their entire fall sports program, and this is kind of an example that I'd want the board to hear. How does that impact Tempe Union, because we play some of those 6A, 5A teams and that kind of a thing? It's the complexity behind it. Can you explain a little bit about that?
Right. So in regards to, like, let's say Phoenix Union, they haven't canceled fall sports. What they've done is they basically pushed back fall sports until they have in-person learning. And once they have in-person learning, they can then officially start practice. And that is kind of the direction they're going. They have requested to get a schedule put together. So the AIA is going to create a schedule. Now, the schedule may be in a way that they're only playing a few games, but I think everybody would understand that, the opportunity to play a few games, even though it may not be your regular 10-game schedule or an 8-game schedule, if that's what we're going to call normal this year, and it's only 2 or 3, they feel like that would be a good place to start. They also feel that if the playoffs begin, that they would still want to continue playing those regular games, even though they are not quite playoff games. They still want to give their kids as much opportunity. So even though they might not start officially like what the rest of the state or most of the state would start at, they also will be able to play as many games as possible. How is that going to affect our schedule? It's going to affect it a great deal. Any of those games that were previously scheduled are going to be reshuffled, and like I said, that's why they're having a little bit of trouble getting it out immediately. But we should be seeing those schedules coming out within the next couple of days. They do have drafts done. They're just kind of solidifying them now.
Very good. Thank you, Dave.
Board Member Ham?
Thank you, Mrs. Hodge. Your question raised one in my mind, and it's really for Mr. McDonald. Mr. McDonald, our schools always get quite a bit of revenue from especially football games from attendees. They're going to be losing out on that revenue this year. How is that going to impact our various schools?
Thank you for the question, Ms. Helm. Actually, that money goes into what we call account 11, and that money actually goes to pay for the actual coaches and the officials and things of that nature. So the money doesn't go directly to the teams. It helps support the efforts and the resources that are needed to actually have the games and things of that nature, and for us to have our coaches as well.
Well, where will that money come from now at this point to support our coaches? And do we have the funds available, Dr. Mendeville, or how are we going to supplement the loss that we will be having?
I'm going to respond to what I know. The coaches that are actually have begun, and they're in this phased approach of fall sports, have stipends already, and those stipends are paid by the district. So those are on the stipend schedule. So that's already done. It's all the other support kind of work that goes behind the scenes, and that's where we might use a student announcer to save a little money. Those kinds of creative ways in which we can look at that. I do believe that we have some additional reserves in Fund 11 as a carryover. I don't want to misspeak, but I believe that's true. Mrs. Mielmans, if you want to add or correct that, but we can use in this interim until we actually have patrons paying to help us out in this intermediary phase that we're in right now. Mrs. Mielmans, you want to add to that?
So, due to the spring sports being canceled, we did not have to pay out all the officials and the announcers and everything. So and really in reality, football is the big money maker. And so that money pretty much carries forward through the year. So there are some carryover funds from the previous year that we could use towards these events if there are no fans that attend. And then ultimately, if there's not enough money there, then we'll have to look at potentially M&O supplementing those accounts.
Will there be an availability for volunteers in any capacity to help us out?
I will say yes.
Absolutely, by all means. A lot of times we work through volunteers.
Wherever we can get free help, we're going to do it.
Okay, thank you very much, all of you.
Thank you. Is there any other questions? Okay, Board Member Barraza?
Yes, actually, I have several of them, but I'll probably email most of them to you. First off, thank you, Director Huffine, for that presentation and all the work that you guys have done, along with Assistant Superintendent McDonald, to be able to get this to where we're at and having a phased-in approach to get students back engaged on campus through activities and clubs. It's really important, and I really appreciate how thorough and responsible it is. This is really what we've been talking about, doing a phased-in approach from the entire beginning. A lot of things have occurred since, but I love that we're still going back to that fundamental philosophy. So thank you guys, and please, one of the things I want to make sure is, Director Huffine, if you can convey to the student athletes and the students in the clubs how much we appreciate their responsibility to be able to work with the district to be able to have these programs phased in. It was great to hear that there's one student pending and that student is getting tested. Often there's, you know, feet in the ground, you know, resistance to getting a lot of this done. And it's really great that our students are very active and being very responsible. They are leaders of the community. They are leaders of the school, and they will be leaders of, you know, our nation, of our world at some point. And this is an opportunity for them to be able to sharpen those skills. So always encourage them to, you know, look to lead their peers. You know, the backbone of integrity is, or backbone of leadership is integrity, you know, and I really do appreciate all that they and their coaches and their advisors are doing, you know, and so it seems like it's going great. I want to ask you, maybe this is more for Dr. Mendeval first. Compadre students have been generally, you know, very flexible in being able to get, you know, through all of this, and they're very much adaptable to the online situation and what is really occurring. I'm very proud of them. Is there any possibility for them to be able to be included in these programs and clubs, since Compadre doesn't have any themselves, you know, maybe in terms of the athletics? Or I know that, you know, there are circumstances regarding some students, you know, but I feel like this is a circumstance in itself, and I would like us to be able to see if we can, you know, work something out. We all need this, really.
Member Baraza, that's a great question, and actually, am I on? Yeah, actually, they do have more clubs and opportunities at Compadre today versus maybe from years ago. So kudos to Compadre and the teachers who are taking some of that. They have student council. They have a variety of other clubs. The other thing too, and maybe Dave can expand a little bit on this, but our students at Compadre are also eligible at their home school to participate in you know, different activities and sports. So and whenever that can occur, we certainly encourage that, and particularly now it's in a safe manner. But all those are afforded to them in that program, in the Compadre School program.
Dr. Mendeval, that's correct. And also our Tempe online students, Union online students can participate as well.
Thank you for adding that, Mr. McDonald. I really appreciate that, because I can convey that to some of the parents, and I'm sure a lot of parents are already listening right now. One of the questions pertaining to our JROTC program, you know, it's a district-wide program. We pull students from all of our campuses, and generally they meet at Marcos Denisa. Do we have any idea of what they can do in terms of programs, activities, to be able to continue the JROTC program and not have it stalled? Have we started that phased-in approach?
Yeah, thank you for that question. What they're working on is like any other club. You know, they're working virtually. They're meeting with their, you know, their cadets, and they are, you know, planning hopefully to get back here soon. But you know, they're working on their community projects. They're working on their leadership, and it's something that obviously is extremely important, you know, for those cadets and for those you know, sponsors. And it's just like any of the other activities and groups. You know, each one is important. Each one has a special niche, and that's why these kids love being a part of it. You know, the one thing that I will add is that we have seen an increased number of student participation in coming onto campuses and being part of these programs that we are offering. And when I, you know, talk to other groups, and when I talk to other, you know, districts, they're seeing similar numbers. Is that, you know, kids want to get a part of this. You would think, hey, with the situation that we're dealing with a pandemic, that you would not see as many people coming out or kids coming out to participate. And it's almost just the opposite. If kids can make it to campus to get to that practice, they're doing so. And they're doing a great job once they're there. They're following the recommendations and the protocols because they know a lot is at stake. Seeing what happened with all of the spring activities and sports being shut down. And that's the leadership part of it. Those senior athletes don't want to see our fall sports or our winter sports go away like what happened in the spring. and they're taking that leadership role of saying, hey, look, we've got to do the right thing. We got to follow the guidelines. And if we can do that, you're going to give us a chance to participate. And that's extremely important to them right now.
Thank you. I really appreciate that. You know, that was one of the clubs that I participated in. I also want to say thank you, you know, for that phased in again presentation in terms of the athletics. I know there are a lot of students right now, my nephew being one of them at baseball, Marcos, and my son formerly baseball. I know they're itching all to kind of just even get out there and just run laps right now. You never hear that from athlete kids, you know, go run laps, but they really want to go do it, you know, and they want to do it together as a team. So it's really great, you know, that you guys have put together this approach. I just more comment. I think there's an opportunity for film and TV to get involved, you know, in the athletics and some of the programs. So I hope that they can utilize some of the equipment, and maybe, you know, we can get Warren to help them to navigate some of the technicalities along with all of their advisors from each of the campuses. This is a good opportunity, I think, that we could collaborate and get, you know, a 3-4 person news crew to just go around campus and just go meet students in their style, you know, more of a vlog style. I think if we give them that creative approach. What's that?
Warren agrees. That's what I would say.
That's great, because I think there's an opportunity. And plus, I also want to talk to Sean McDonald. I think we got to do a This Old House thing with Warren and you on some of these projects going on in the campuses. It's incredible, and I think people would really appreciate seeing how much is going into it. So TV and film, I know there's got to be, you know, opportunities, and I'm excited to see what they do. Same with theater. Theater, I think, you know, it'd be interesting, you know, these theater troupes, which are generally 5 people. You know, there's improv troupes, there's all these different things. So being able to use maybe the open air aspects of our fields during certain periods to give them a micro stage, or I guess a grand stage, and a micro performance. So that would be great. I know all these students are excited about this. For me, I guess, you know, this is one of the big things I was pushing for, and I was really asking Dr. Mendenville and Sean McDonald, you know, we got to first start with clubs and activities. So this is really great. I really hope we can continue the phase-in approach. It sounds like everyone's being responsible. Just to bring up the financial aspects, I know we have $400K that's kind of lingering, Dr. Mendenville and maybe Diane, but maybe we can have a discussion somewhere down the road that we can maybe utilize some of that money for the students, buy equipment, some of the teachers, advisors, coaches, to just kind of get some added, what we know we're going to need to make some purchases and adjustments to how students are going to interact. So is that possible? Well, something to consider. We'll have, that's going to be probably agendized at some point, so let's not talk about that. But if that can be, you know, something that we can input. I guess Director Huffine, I guess the last real question I have is, when we're looking at students and their performances and, you know, on, off field and in activities, one of the things that, you know, is a big concern is, how do we engage the students with the colleges and other secondary schools to get those students? How do we help the recruitment process? I mean, are we able to, or are we starting that conversation? Because I think if we play some of these games and we can get our own video reels, you know, just from the students utilizing TV, the TV and film aspects. So even though we may be playing Marcos versus Corona, or, you know, the Tukey Bowl, you know, that can be an opportunity for us to broadcast. And I would really love if we can figure out how we can get that footage, so that way we can give the kids a reel. So that way when they're going to apply at colleges, they have an opportunity to pass this on to their athletics departments and, you know, their dance coordinators and arts instructors and so forth.
So in regards to athletics, that's being done. I mean, you know, the reason why when you look up at the press box and you see all those cameras up there, games are being filmed. They're being filmed from multiple angles. Those aren't necessarily the pixel-lock cameras that you guys see when you live stream it on the NFHS network, but those are sports editing tools that the coaches use, the kids have access to, and it's also being allowed for colleges and universities to be sent out those game footages or those individual highlight films that the kids can create and send it out. And right now, there's a lot of colleges and universities that are looking around going, what are we going to be doing right now? Because some of those universities aren't participating at the moment. And so, they're watching film, they're watching, what's going on in terms of recruiting. But I can guarantee you that if our kids are playing, it's being recorded, and those kids are going to have access to it, and they can definitely get it out to any colleges or universities that they are looking to possibly go to.
That's great. I mean, that was really what I was wanting to hear. That's amazing, because I know there's going to be an adjustment in that. And, these kids are really kind of interested in wanting to make sure their future aspects are still, secure. And that software, or that, I can't remember, that dashboard that you're talking about just reminded me, my nephew at Marco's niece, they use that for the baseball. And one thing I really just want to comment that's really great about the district and our athletics, department overall, and what you really just nailed on and carrying forward, is that when my son was playing baseball, I believe he was playing under Coach Courtney at the time. There was a real emphasis at the freshman level of developing leadership, volunteerism, community. And the more I talk to these other student athletes and teachers and coaches, it's really instilled in the whole district. It was really great. The one thing that shocked me was when I was a parent, as a freshman, I was given the paper of how to kind of think about my son's athletic career in high school, and if he would want to continue to college. The goals, I didn't realize we should be making contact with coaches at the university level by sophomore year. By junior year, he was wanting us to make sure we were turning in videos to those coaches and those teams and building those relationships. It was really shocking. So I appreciate that Tempe Union's on, ahead of all of that and making sure that we're always trying to make sure our students are more competitive than other districts, because we want to see them shine. Thank you, Director Huffine, for that presentation. Again, welcome to the district. I'm really excited to see what you're going to put together. This is only the beginning of what you're going to be able to develop here at Tempe Union, and I think the community is going to be excited and celebrate your work. So thank you.
Well, I appreciate that, and all I'll say was, I hope we can be excited by having some type of normalcy occur, and that we can get the kids out on the field. That's going to be a win, in terms of this year.
Good deal.
Okay.
Thank you, Mr. Huffine.
Thank you so much. Mrs. Lau, you have one question?
Oh, I have 10. No, I'm kidding. I have 30 minutes of stuff. No, I just want to say the thing about going last is I don't have anything except thank you, David. I look forward to meeting with you sometime and getting to know you a little bit better. So thank you for the presentation and all the information.
You're welcome. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you, Mrs. Lau. Thank you, David. Do we have any more questions? Looks like we're okay. We look like we're done. Well, the next on our agenda is our financial reports due August 13th. Does anybody have any questions on that? Looks like there's none. Our next meeting is September 2nd, a day before my birthday. I'm telling my whole board ahead of time. My birthday is September 3rd. I move to adjourn this meeting. May I have a second?
Second.
Thank you, Vice President Garcia. All in favor? Aye. Aye. Okay, any opposed? Motion passes 5-0. Thank you, everyone. Everyone have a wonderful rest of your night.
Thank you.
Stay safe, everyone.
Good night.
Bye.
Stay safe.